Okay, so here we have a patient who is laying on their back. The forefoot is taped so that we can see the comparison of the forefoot to the lower leg, which is being held in this device here. So the normal amount of pronation, again, the normal amount of talotarsal pronation or subtalar joint pronation should just be a few degrees of this valgus motion. So that's all the normal amount of motion that should occur. You can see how this patient has an excessive amount of pronation. The only way that this is going to occur is when the talus slides off of the calcaneus, and we have a partial talotarsal joint dislocation, and also there is an obliteration of the sinus tarsi. This is the surgical landmarks for the procedure. Just like with any other surgical procedure, incision placement is key. So the first thing we're going to do is palpate the lateral malleolus, the fibular malleolus, and outline that bone. Here's the posterior aspect, and it just extends up the leg. And then we're going to palpate for the anterior calcaneal tubercle, which is felt right here. And then in between this landmark and this is going to be the sinus tarsi area. So when I push on here, I feel that there's just this soft indentation. A lot of times there's a big lipoma or fatty tissue here, so that can distort the where we would want to place the surgical incision. So at this point, then we're going to draw two parallel lines, one connecting the front of the fibular malleolus and one in the back, aiming to this area. And this is the anterior border of the sinus tarsi. This is the posterior border. And our incision is going to be one index finger in front of the fibular malleolus within these skin lines. There's no nerves or any other tendons, ligaments that we have to worry about over the sinus tarsi. The intermediate dorsal-cutaneous nerve is in front of this area, or anterior. The sural nerve is posterior to the sinus tarsi, and there is a communicating branch that connects these two nerves that runs right over this tubercle there. So again, right where our incision is going to be made, there are no landmines, nothing to worry about. So utilizing a number 15 blade, we're going to make about a 2 centimeter incision, again, one index finger anterior to the lateral malleolus. Once we make that incision, we're going to put the 15 blade away, because we don't need it anymore. At that point, we're going to go to the GraMedica sinus tarsi decompression scissors. These are also known as a Stevens tenotomy scissors. They are made of good German stainless steel, and you can see that they're curved. So we will perform really an atraumatic superficial soft tissue dissection. So we're going to insert the tips right through the dermis, and then we're going to separate. You can see that I did not cut any tissues, but simply separated that. Now, one of the key parts of the surgical procedure is making sure that the curve of the scissor is aiming posteriorly, because the next part of the procedure is to decompress the tissues within the canalus tarsi. Failure to do this is going to result in inadequate placement of the sinus tarsi stent and can lead to displacement. The most common mistake at this point is for surgeons to insert the scissors anteriorly. If you do that, you are not going to cut the tissues within the canalus tarsi, and again result most likely in implant displacement. So we're going to insert the scissors, and the sinus tarsi is right there, and we will just use a cutting action, and you hear the ligament being transected. And it's very important, again, to cut all of that ligament. Now, some surgeons are very worried about cutting the artery, nerve, and vein that run into the sinus tarsi. This is not a concern because that hugs the neck of the talus, and we are not going to disrupt that neurovascular supply. One of the other questions that we commonly get during part of the procedure is, how do we know when the interosseous ligament is completely transected? One of the best ways to check, besides looking at this under fluoroscopy, is seeing how deep the tips of the scissors are. So normally we'll want to have them so that they're at least way deep under the neck of the talus. And so when you insert the scissors into the sinus tarsi, you can kind of see with your fingers how deep this is. And then when we put it up on top of the foot, you can see that we've gone basically through, not completely medially, but we're far enough medially that there should be enough transection of that tissue. If there's any question, you can always go back in and recut any of that tissue. You can't overcut. The next part of the procedure is inserting the guide wire. So this is a standard guide wire that comes with the HyProCure II instrument set. Again, you have to remember that the orientation of the sinus tarsi is anterolateral distal to proximal medial posterior. So this is just a guide to help keep that orientation in your mind. You should not struggle to insert this guide wire. If you do, then that's an indication that you've either not completely cut the interosseous ligament, or it's possible that the patient has a tarsal coalition that was missed in the pre-op diagnosis. So the next part of the procedure is to trial size. This is the universal driver that comes with the HyProCure II instrument set, and we have the various trial sizers that will attach to the driver in the trial sizer caddy. Typically, we're going to start with the size 7 trial sizer. You'll see that the cylindrical portion of this implant is smooth. And the reason for that is so that we can insert the various trial sizers without over-traumatizing the soft tissues. The more we traumatize those tissues, the more pain and inflammation the patient could potentially have after the surgery. So once that's inserted onto the driver, we'll slide it over the guide wire. We will make sure to supinate the foot, because if you're pronating the foot, that's going to close the sinus tarsi, then you'll struggle to insert it. So we're going to push this right through into the sinus tarsi as deep as we can make it go, and it's going to stop automatically. So that's one of the design advantages of the HyProCure implant, HyProCure II, is because it stops automatically. With all of the other sinus tarsi implants on the market, there is guesswork as far as how deep or superficial the stent should be. Of course, initially this should always be checked under fluoroscopic imaging, just a DP view to make sure that the trial sizer is in the correct location. So at this point, we're then going to put the subtalar joint or talotarsal joint through maximum pronation. So you have to remember that the patient has 4 to 5 times their body weight going through each foot. So you want to push as hard as you can. And so we can see already with the size 7 trial sizer that we have significantly reduced the amount of excessive pronation. So at this point, the subtalar joint has been very much stabilized. But we don't know if we can get even more stabilization. So we're going to remove this trial sizer, and we're going to then attach the size 8 stent. Sometimes you're going to have to use a piece of gauze to remove the trial sizer stent from the driver because it could get slippery. So at this point now we have the size 8 trial sizer, and you can see that it's clearly labeled on the stent, the trial sizer. We're going to screw the threads of the driver into the back of the trial sizer, slide it onto the guide wire, and again, we're going to advance this as deep as we can go, and it just stops automatically. So we're going to maximally load the foot again, and so now at this point, we see that we still have about 3 or 4 degrees of pronation, and that's about all the pronation we need. So with this one, again, I typically like to keep going until there's limited pronation. So we're going to back out this trial sizer, and then we're going to go up to the size 9. Now, many of you have already been using the HyProCure set, and the HyProCure II sizing is different from the HyProCure I. So just keep that in mind. So now we're up to the size 9. Again, this time we're still maximally pronating the foot. At this time, we only have about 2 to 3 degrees of pronation. So I feel that the size 8 implant will give the patient the best correction. So again, one more time, we're going to remove the sizer, and we've called for the size 8 implant, which is individually boxed. One of the new parts to the HyProCure II system is this positioning sleeve. So this is going to be slid onto the driver prior to the insertion or to the attachment of the actual unpackaged HyProCure II stent. So you can see with this stent that there's a much more aggressive thread catching or tissue adherence system onto this stent. So that should help to prevent the stent from backing out. The rounded portion here, the smooth portion, is where the talus is actually stabilized on the calcaneus. And then again, on the back of the stent, you see that there's two slots that are going to correspond to the two prongs extending off of the positioning sleeve. So we'll thread the stent onto the driver and we'll engage the slots into the back end of the stent. We'll slide this over the guide wire, and prior to final positioning of this, we're going to remove the guide wire, because sometimes upon final placement of the stent, there could be a medial bend placed on the guide wire, and upon removal of the guide wire, the implant might get displaced. So again, at this point, basically the stent is already going into the tip of the canalis tarsi. We're going to push this in the rest of the way until it won't go anymore. You should check this, especially if you're just starting out using this under fluoroscopy, to make sure that you've positioned it correctly. At that point, you're going to then just hold the positioning sleeve, twist the driver counterclockwise, and the stent completely becomes detached, and that's the end of the procedure. So at this point, once the driver is removed, again, we're checking the range of motion, and I'm pushing as hard as I can, and we have a normal amount of pronation occurring. So by doing this, by inserting this stent, we are rebalancing the forces through the hind foot. We're decreasing the force and the strain acting on the plantar fascia, on the posterior tib tendon, and on the whole medial column of the foot. Additionally, then, we have restored the foundation to the patient's body, so we should have positive effects to the knees, hips, and back. The incision itself should just be closed superficially. I know that some surgeons like to close deep, and we'll leave that to your discretion. There will be a situation if you use these implants where you're going to have to revise or completely remove the stent, because no surgical procedure is complication-free. The great news about the HyProCure II system is that we have simplified the removal process. So you'll use the same skin incision as the original skin incision, perform the superficial dissection. I prefer using these curved tenotomy scissors because they just are very delicate and they can go in and get the job done without causing too much tissue damage. At that point, you would insert the guide wire down the cannula of the stent itself. You may need to use fluoroscopic imaging if possible. It is possible to attempt to remove the stent without inserting the guide wire by simply engaging the tip of the driver onto the stent. Hopefully this will remove the scar tissue that's formed within the threads on the back of the stent. So what you can do then is to insert the guide wire into the end of the stent and then place the driver over that to engage the lateral end of the stent, and then you pull it out. Now, it's probably not going to be that easy, especially if the stent has been in the patient's foot for more than a couple of weeks. There'll be some scar tissue that'll attach to this. So generally, what you would want to do is to keep spinning, to spin the implant, even though the driver is attached to it, and that'll help to break up the adhesive tissue, and it'll be easily removed. The next thing we want to introduce are these general implant forceps that were created specifically for the removal of internal hardware. The advantage of these over any other grasping device is the modified tips that can remove a guide wire or internal K-wires. And then you'll also see that these are narrow and easily can grab a hold of the outer end of the stent. So with this, ideally, you get one of the jaws into the center of the stent, and then the other one is on the outside. Again, you'll want to twist this 360 degrees to break up the tissue adhesions, and then you'll just extract the implant. So let's take a look at this within the foot. Kind of close the stent a little bit. We can feel it. We're going to twist it 360 degrees, and then we're going to extract the stent. And at that point, then you can either revise the procedure to put in a smaller or larger stent, or you can just close the skin if it's a permanent removal.